Devaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Text 19. Dharma Uvacha. Kachit Bhadrenamayam Atmanaste Vichayasi Malyashateshena Mukhena Alakshye Bhavati Mantarandhim Dure Bandhum Shochasi Kanchanambha.
Hare Krishna. Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Dharma, in the form of a bull, asked, Madam, are you not hale and hearty? Why are you covered with the shadow of grief? It appears by your face that you have become black. Are you suffering from some internal disease, or are you thinking of some relative who is away in a distant place?
Text 20. Padernyunam Shauchasi Maikapadam Atmanam Vavrishalairabhokshamanam Aho Suradin Hritayagya Bhagan Pragya Utasvin Madhavatsa Avarshasi.
I have lost my 3 legs and am now standing on one only. Are you lamenting for my state of existence? Or are you in great anxiety because henceforward the unlawful meat eaters will exploit you? Or are you in a sorry plight because the demigods are now bereft of their share of sacrificial offerings because no sacrifices are being performed at present? Or are you grieving for living beings because of their sufferings due to famine and drought?
Text 21. Arakshamanam striyaurvibalam sochasyatho purushadairivartan vacham devim brahmakule tu karmani abrahmane rajkule kulabrayam.
Are you feeling compunction for the unhappy women and children who are left forlorn by unscrupulous persons? Or are you unhappy because the goddess of learning is being handled by Brahmanas addicted to acts against the principles of religion? Or are you sorry to see that the Brahmanas have taken shelter of administrative families that do not respect Brahmanical culture?
Text 22. Kim Chhatrabandhun Kalinopsristana Rashtrani Vataira Avaropitani Itasasto Vashan Panavasaha Snana Navayonmukha Jivalokam.
The so-called administrators are now bewildered by the influence of this age of Kali, and thus they have put all state affairs into disorder. Are you now lamenting this disorder? Now the general populace does not follow the rules and regulations for eating, sleeping, drinking, mating, etc., and they are inclined to perform such anywhere and everywhere. Are you unhappy because of this?
Text 23. Yadham te bhuri bharavatar kritavatarasya hare dharitri antar hitasya smriti vishishtha karmani nirvana vilambitani.
O Mother Earth, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Hari, incarnated himself as Lord Krishna just to unload your heavy burden. All his activities here are transcendental and they cement the path of liberation. You are now bereft of his presence. You are probably now thinking of those activities and feeling sorry in their absence.
Text 24. Idam mamakshva tavadha tavadhimulam वसुन्धरे येन विकर्षितासि कालेन वाते बलिना बलीयसा सुराञ्चितं कीर्हतं मम सौभगम्.
Mother, you are the reservoir of all riches. Please inform me of the root cause of your tribulations by which you have been reduced to such a weak state. I think that the powerful influence of time, which conquers the most powerful, might have forcibly taken away all your fortune, which was adorned even by the demigods.
Text 25. धर्णी उवाच भवान् हि वेद तत्सर्वं येन मम धर्मनुपच्छति चतुर्भिर्वर्तसे येन पादैर्लोका सुखावः.
The earthly deity, in the form of a cow, thus replied to the personality of religious principles in the form of a bull. O Dharma, whatever you have inquired from me shall be known to you. I shall try to reply to all those questions. Once you too were manifested by your 4 legs, and you increased happiness all over the universe by the mercy of the Lord.
Text 26 to 30. Satyam shaucham daya kshantim tyaga santosha arjavam shamodamas tapasamyam titiksho paritishrutam jnanam viraktisht aishwaryam shauryam tejo balam smritihi swatantram kaushalam kanti dhairyam मार्दमेव एव च प्रागल्यं प्रासराशीलं सह ओजो बलं भगः गाम्भीर्यं स्थैर्यम् आसिक्तं कीर्तिं मानो नहन् कृतिः एके चान्ये च भगवनि नित्य यात्रा महागुना पार्थया महात्वम् इच्छाद्भिः नावयन्ति स्म कर्हिचित् तेनाहं गुणपात्रेण श्रीनिवासेन साम्प्रतं शोचामि रहितं लोकं पाप्मना कलिनेक्षितम्.
In him reside truthfulness, cleanliness, intolerance of another's unhappiness, the power to control anger, self-satisfaction, straightforwardness, steadiness of mind, control of the sense organs, responsibility, equality, tolerance, equanimity, faithfulness, knowledge, absence of sense enjoyment, leadership, chivalry, influence, the power to make everything possible, the discharge of proper duty, complete independence, dexterity, full of all beauty, serenity, kind-heartedness, ingenuity, gentility, magnanimity, determination, perfection in all knowledge, proper execution, possession of all objects of enjoyment, joyfulness, immovability, fidelity, fame, worship, pridelessness, being as the personality of Godhead, eternity, and many other transcendental qualities which are eternally present and never to be separated from Him. That personality of Godhead, the reservoir of all goodness and beauty, Lord Shri Krishna, has now closed his transcendental pastimes on the face of the earth. In his absence, the age of Kali has spread its influence everywhere. So I'm sorry to see this condition of existence.
Text 31. Atmanam chanushocami bhavantam chamaruttamam devan pitrunrshin sadhun सर्वान् वर्णांस तथाश्रमान्.
I am thinking about myself and also, O best among the demigods, about you, as well as about all the demigods, sages, denizens of Pitraloka, devotees of the Lord, and all men obedient to the system of Varna and Ashrama in human society.
Text 32 to 33. ब्रह्मादयो बहुतिथिं यद्भाग्यमोक्षा कामस्तपं समचरन् भगवत्प्रपन्ना सा श्रीस्ववसम् अरविन्दवानमविहाय यत्पादसौभगमलं भजते निरुक्ता तस्याम् अवज्या कुलिशान् कुशाकेतुकेता श्रीमद्भगवतं समलङ्कृतानि त्रिनत्यरोच उपलभ्य ततो विभूतिः लोकान् समं वृजवृदा उत्सवातिं तजन्ते.
Lakshmi ji, the goddess of fortune, whose glance of grace was sought by demigods like Brahma, and for whom they surrendered many a day unto the personality of Godhead, gave up her own abode in the forest of lotus flowers and engaged herself in the service of the lotus feet of the Lord. I was endowed with specific powers to supersede the fortune of all the three planetary systems by being decorated with the impressions of the flag, thunderbolt, elephant driving rod, and lotus flower, which are signs of the lotus feet of the Lord. But at the end, when I felt I was so fortunate, the Lord left me.
Text 34. यो वै ममाति भरमासुरावंसराजम् अक्षौहिणी शतम् अपुनाद् आत्मतन्त्रा त्वं दुहस्थम् उनपादम् उत्मानि पौरुषेण सम्पादयन् यदुषु रम्यम् अभिद्रत् अङ्गम्.
O personality of religion, I was greatly overburdened by the undue military phalanxes arranged by atheistic kings, and I was relieved by the grace of the personality of Godhead. Similarly, you were also in a distressed condition, weakened in your standing strength, and thus he also incarnated by his internal energy into the family of the Yadus to relieve you.
Text 35. कावा सहेता विरहं पुरुषोत्तमस्य प्रेमावलोकरुचिरास्मितवल्गुजल्पैः स्थैर्यं समनम् अहरन् मधुमानिनीनं रोमोत्सवो मम यद् अङ्गरी वितङ्कितायाः.
Who, therefore, can tolerate the pangs of separation from that supreme personality of Godhead? He could conquer the gravity and passionate wrath of his sweethearts like Satyabhama by his sweet smile of love, pleasing glance, and hearty appeals. When he traversed my earth's surface, I would be immersed in the dust of his lotus feet, and thus would be sumptuously covered with grass, which appeared like hairs standing on me out of pleasure.
Text 36. तरोरेवम कथयतोः पृथिवी धर्मयोस तदा परीक्षित नाम राजऋषिः प्राप्त प्राचीं सरस्वती.
While the earth and the personality of religion were thus engaged in conversation, the saintly king Parikshit reached the shore of the Saraswati river, which flowed towards the east.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, both of you. Very, very nice. Alkaba's English was very fluent and very nice. Thank you so much. And Prem Kumari Mataji, your Sanskrit pronunciation was very, very nice. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna, dear devotees. Let me just stop sharing this and share my PowerPoint. One second. Very well, right. So today we have come to the end of, well, yesterday, in fact, you came to the end of chapter 16. And today we'll do a summary of this chapter. So before we start the summary, we just want to look at the context, how we got to chapter 16. So chapter 15 was about, who can tell us the, can you see my screen yet? Yes, you can see. Who can tell us the title of the 15th chapter?
How Parikshit received the age of Kali. I think.
That is the current chapter, but chapter 15.
Okay.
Chapter 15 is Pandavas retire.
Yeah, the Pandavas left. Yeah.
So how we got to chapter 16 was that towards the end of chapter 15, the Pandavas one by one, they followed Yudhishthira Maharaj and they all retired. And before retiring, Yudhishthira Maharaj has enthroned Parikshit Maharaj on the throne. He was the king now. So in the beginning of the 16th chapter, now it begins talking about Parikshit Maharaj and his rule. And in this it says how he received the age of Kali. So that happens towards the end of this chapter. So there is Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 16, how Parikshit received the age of Kali. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Ajnanati Mirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Bhatitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yukapadakamalam Shri Gurum Vaishnavamsa Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathan Nitam Tam Sajivam Sadavaitam Savadvitam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vipatam Spitam. Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostate Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priya Vancha Kalpa Tarubhyasya Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare. Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Krishna Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Charu Swamini Namine Snigdha Cheta Supaneta Vagvinam Charasaputam Prabhupada Gatapana Nami Bhakti Charu Padam Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Krishna Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swamini Namine Namaste Saraswate Devi Gauravani Pacharine Nirvishesha Sunyavadi Pasha Kadishita Prabhupada Ki Jai. So we'll do the headlines of the overview first. So verses 1 to 4 spoke about Parikshit, the ideal ruler. Yeah, Panish's Kali. So there's a brief introduction about Kali in that section. 5 to 9 questions by Shonaka Rishi. 10 to 17, Parikshit, the conqueror, is sort of replying, Sutta Goswami is replying now, describing Parikshit Maharaj's conquering abilities. Then it switches to Dharma and Dharani meeting, and there's a discussion between them, questions, and then the answers by Dharani. So this is how this chapter is structured. What I will do is we'll take each one of these sections and just look at the key points. It's quite straightforward, this chapter actually, so there's nothing intricate. We'll just take it one by one and take each one. So Parikshit, the ideal ruler. Ideal ruler, he ruled under the guidance of Brahmanas. This is the key situation where oftentimes you will hear Prabhupada mentioning in his purports and his lectures that in the Vedic times, this Varnashram system was practiced in a pure way, not the polluted way that is going on now, but in a pure way when it was done. Then the Kshatriya kings would actually take guidance from the Brahmanas for all the major decisions. So this was going on at that time, and this is why those kings, because they were taking guidance from the Brahmanas, their decisions were not rash. They were actually coming from Shastras, and that's why they were able to make the right decisions to keep the whole civilization, all citizens rather, all happy. And Prabhupada also always clarifies that citizens means not just the human beings. Citizens also means the animals born in that kingdom. Because citizen means one who's taken birth. In Sanskrit, it's called praja. Also Hindi, we say praja. Praja. So one who's taken birth. Ja is taken birth. So one who's taken birth. So animals also have taken birth. So it is the duty of the ruler to also protect the animals. And now, because the rulers in the modern times, actually, the reason the fact that the situation changed and everything became corrupt was because the kings also in monarchy, towards the later part of monarchy, they also became corrupt. And this is why at the moment we got something which is really imperfect. We got the democracy, which Prabhupada called the demon crazy. And it is causing all these problems in the world. But yes, if the rules were followed properly, as in the Vedic times, then we would have proper civilization. It mentions that Parikshit Maharaj got married to Iravati, who was a daughter of King Uttara, and they got 4 sons headed by Maharaj Janmajay. He performed 3 horse sacrifices and gave profuse charity under the guidance of his guru, Kripacharya. So once again, of sacrifices, horse sacrifices, of course, in those days, this was all permitted because the sacrifices were performed in the proper way. Again, towards the latter part of the Vedic times, this situation was basically taken advantage of by the unscrupulous people, and they used the purpose of sacrifice just to satisfy their tongues, to kill the animals and eat them. Whereas the sacrifices were performed by very, very qualified brahmanas who would be able to chant the right mantras, and the sacrificed animal would either receive a brand new body again, or would actually be promoted to his further evolution kind of thing. So, but those things nowadays we don't have brahmanas like that. So this is why these things are prohibited. Sacrifices are prohibited. Many things prohibited. There's in the age of Kali, there's sannyas is prohibited. Then offering meat in Shraddha ceremonies is prohibited. Begetting children in your younger brother's wife is prohibited. These were all prevalent in those days. And one more thing, I think I'm contributing. Avalambam. That's one thing. So yeah.
Sannyas.
Sannyas, yes. Sannyas is mentioned in the beginning, I think. Sannyas.
Oh, you mentioned, sorry.
Yeah. So that's sannyas. Anybody know the verse? I know the verse, but it won't come to mind now. They were also. Okay, doesn't matter. So yeah. So in those days, people were performing those, but under the guidance of amazing devotees like Kripacharya, wonderful Brahmanas. So now is this glimpse of what's coming in chapter 17, actually, is that he punishes the personality of Kali, who was a Shudra dressed as a king, and he was hurting the goat and the cow. So we'll hear a lot about that in the next chapter. But right now, we will, in this chapter, it's the beginning of that, the a preview to that in terms of how the bull, dharma in the form of bull and dharani in the form of a cow, in the form of cow, having a discussion. So questions by Shonaka Rishi. So he starts by asking a question about why Maharaj Parikshit didn't just simply punish him and not kill him. I'm talking about the Kali. He said, please describe all these incidents if they are related to the topics of Lord Krishna. Yadi Krishna Kathashrayam is very important. So this shows you that devotees of the Lord are not interested in any other things. They are only interested in listening to things which are connected to Krishna. This is why many times when we are reading the Bhagavatam, for example, we get into very, very complicated chapters about the creation and the planetary systems and all that. And many times people ask, what is the need of all that information? Most of the time, most people will have read those chapters and then forgotten about it because it's really so difficult to get your head around. But the point Prabhupada makes in his purpose is that, look, because all these things, creation is connected to Krishna, that is why it's important to hear it. Similarly, in the Bhagavad Gita, they're very technical. There are points about philosophy, but is it all connected to Krishna? So this is why it's important to hear. Then the question, again, this is a continuation of the question. Questions, the devotees of the Lord are accustomed to licking up the honey available from the lotus feet of the Lord. What is the use of topics which simply waste one's valuable life? So very, very important question. And this, I just thought of this verse 1:5-10. Anybody know this verse? Bhakti Shastra, Bhakti Weber students? 1:5-10. Na yadvachas chitrapadam hare yasho jagat pavitram praganita karhichej tadvayasam tirtham shanti manasa na yatra hamsa niramanti shikshaya. So here, this verse is actually saying that Nayad Vachas Chitrapadam Hare. So those words that do not describe the transcendental qualities of Hari, they are Hari, and he was describing who is Jagat Pavitram, who alone can sanctify the atmosphere of the whole universe. Those words, that vaya sam tirtham ushanti manasa, those words are considered by the saintly persons to be like a place of pilgrimage for crows. So, as we know, swans, they like to remain in nice clean water and nice clean, lotuses going around, nice flowers, gardens. That's where the swans hang around. But where do the crows hang around? They have on rubbish piles. They're looking for junk in a rubbish piles. So that is a tirtha for them. So that vayasam tirtham. That means a pilgrimage place of a crow is the pile of rubbish. And yatra hansa ni ramanti shikshya. So hansa means that pure devotees, they do not take any pleasure in those places. So pure devotees do not take any pleasure in the topics which do not concern the Lord. That's simply the waste of time, because they're used to licking up the honey available from the lotus feet of the Lord. Very nice, very poetic. So this is obviously an indication to us as well, because we're all sadhakas. Well, none of us, but some of you may be very pure. I am certainly not pure. So it's an instruction to us also to remain careful, to be careful and remain away from any literature, any words, any discussions about that would drag our mentality, our consciousness away from Krishna. Then next, it says, it's continuation of the questions, part of the questions from Parishit Maharaj. It says, from Shonak Vishirada, lazy human beings with paltry intelligence and a short duration of life pass the night sleeping and the day performing activities. It shows you, this is actually talking literally about almost 99.9% of the population today. Everybody is just running after in this rat race, trying to improve their material situation, economic situation, maintaining the families. And this is all they do. And that again reminds me of another beautiful verse, which is in the second canto, first chapter, text 3, which is Nidraya hiyate naktam vyavayena chavavaya diva charte haya rajan kutumbo barane nava. Nidriya hiyate naktam. So at night, nidriya hiyate. So night time is passed in sleeping. Vyavayena chavavaya, or either in sleeping and Vyavaya means sex life. So nighttime is spent either in sleeping or in sex life. Then diva means daytime. Chate haya rajan, diva working hard during the day. For what? Kutumba bharana. So just to fulfill the needs of a family. That's how. So it's just exactly as this line says here. Nighttime they're sleeping, daytime they're working hard. This is how the whole life is passed. So, and this is the situation, like I say, for most of us. So again, a warning that we must not waste all our life. Of course, we have responsibilities. Of course, we cannot be careless and negligent, but we must divide our time properly and make sure that we don't spend all the time just doing the material activities. We need to make sure that we have enough time for spirituality. And as I'm speaking, I'm thinking of also instruction of Rishabdev to his sons. Canto 5, chapter 5, text 1. And he's saying, Naham deho deha bhajan niroke ashtan kaman arhati vipuzami. Tapo divyam putraka yena satvam. Satya. Okay, last words I can't. But anyway, that verse says, Rishabdev is talking to his 100 sons, giving them instructions. And he's saying that for one who has got the human body, that person should not waste his life working hard, just like dogs and hogs that eat stool. So these animals that eat stool, they also can have sense gratification quite easily. So just for sense gratification, we must not work hard day and night like this. And he says the human life is meant for tapo divyam putraka. So tapo divyam, it means one must engage in penance and austerity to attain the platform of devotional service. And when one attains that devotional service, the last line it says that when one attains that devotional service, then he attains happiness which is transcendental to all the material happiness. So very, very nice. It just shows you this going ahead, emphasizing on this time situation. All of us must make sure that we do not waste our life, whatever is left of it, in just material endeavors. Then now, if in reply, Sutta Goswami is speaking about Maharaj Parikshit now, and he says how he traveled in all directions and conquered all parts of the earthly planet. Such a powerful king that he actually conquered all the parts of the earth. It is said that he was the ruler of Sasagara. Sasagara means including the oceans. He ruled all the continents and also the oceans. Then it is said, wherever the king visited, he continuously heard the glories of his forefathers, who were all devotees of the Lord, and also of the glories of the acts of the Lord. So he was listening wherever he went. People spoke about his predecessors, his grandfathers, and Krishna. They also spoke about how he himself was saved by the Lord from a Brahmastra thrown by Ashwatthama. He was in the stomach of his mother, Uttara. It was also there were people who were speaking about the great affection between the Pandavas and Lord Krishna. So being satisfied with all these discussions, he gave generous gifts to the glorifiers. And he heard that out of his causeless mercy, the Lord served the Pandavas, accepting posts ranging from the chariot driver to the president, to messenger, friend, night watchman, etc., according to the will of the Pandavas, obeying them like a servant and offering obeisances like one younger in years. So this is quite amazing, isn't it? So Krishna, although he's a supreme personality of Godhead, he did all this service for the Pandavas. So it says many times, because Prabhupada also explains that Krishna, he becomes indebted to his devotees. Nobody can conquer Krishna, but his devotees can conquer Krishna by love. You can see how the Pandavas had conquered him by love, so he was willing to do everything for them. And this also reminds me of the story in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, where when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu goes to the Ranganath temple in South India, he sees this Brahmana who was sitting there reading the Bhagavatam. And people around him were mocking him. They were saying, "Oh, Brahmana, are you reading the Bhagavatam? Can you explain it to us?" Like that. So when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu realized what's going on, he went and asked the Brahmana, "What are you reading?" He said, "I'm reading the Bhagavatam." "So why are these people mocking you?" He says, "Oh, because I can't read. I'm illiterate. I can't read a single word." So he said, "But then you're crying when you're reading. Why are you crying when you're reading?" So he says, "I'm just flipping the pages actually, but I just remember the cover of the page where I see Krishna is driving the chariot for Arjuna. And that really makes me cry that, look, the Lord is so merciful that he's acting as a servant of sorry, I was distracted. There's 3 foxes in my garden having a big fight. Sorry, get it gone. So yeah, so like this, the Lord is conquered by his love, and you can see when the explanation was given by the Brahmana to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he said, you have understood the Bhagavatam properly. Although you may be illiterate, you've understood because you have love for the Lord. You feel for the Lord. That is how one needs to be, not just reading as a scholar. So he says now at the end of that section, Shona Krisi says, now you can hear, Sutta Goswami says that now you can hear what happened to Parikshit Maharaj as he was passing these days there and what happens there. So, sorry, one more point in that script. When he heard this, Maharaj Parikshit became overwhelmed with devotion to the lotus feet of the Lord. So, of course, his own love for the Lord also overflowed. The next section now will talk about the discussion between Dharma and Dharani. First, the bull, Dharma in the form of the bull, he was moving around on one leg. As we know, he had lost already 3 legs in the 3 previous yugas. He was only on one leg, which is Satya. And he came across Dharani, Earth, who had lost her body luster and looking very, very sad. So then he is asking the question, why are you covered with the shadow of grief? Are you suffering from some internal disease? Or are you thinking of some relative who's away in a distant place? Then he's asking, are you lamenting for? And he's asking all these questions. Are you lamenting for my state of existence? So all these things he's asking is the situation in Kali Yuga. That's what's happening, right? My state of existence, which means my 3 legs are gone, which means that out of 4 legs, four pillars of Dharma, only one is left. Are you lamenting because of the unlawful meat eaters that will exploit you? That you haven't started so much at the time. You can see it's in the future tense. They will exploit you. So it is increased more and more, and now, of course, it's very prevalent. Demigods are now, are you limiting the demigods are now bit of the shares of sacrifice? Because, of course, in the age of Kali, nobody does any sacrifices, not the proper sacrifices anyway. So then, are you lamenting because the demigods aren't getting their share? Are you lamenting because sufferings of living entities due to famine and drought? Yeah, we can see that's happening quite a lot. And it will increase as time goes. Are you lamenting because women and children who are left forlorn by unscrupulous persons? You can see there's so many terrible things happening around the world because of mad people nowadays. Are you lamenting because the goddess of learning is being handled by mishandled? So goddess of learning is handled by brahmanas. I think there's something missing. Unqualified brahmanas, I should say. That's my typo there. Sorry. So, are you lamenting because goddess of learning is handled by unqualified brahmanas? Are you lamenting because brahmanas are serving kings? Brahmanas are serving kings disrespectful of Brahmanical culture. So you see, nowadays there may be some brahmanas who also may be serving the leaders, but these leaders don't appreciate the brahmanas. So it doesn't really have any effect. Or are you lamenting because of disorder created by the leaders bewildered by Kali? Right now, the leaders, as we know, we can see all over, Sudras leading the Sudras. So are you lamenting because people engage in unrestricted sense enjoyment? We spoke about that just now. Yeah, exactly. Right now, the focus of everyone is sense enjoyment. The whole education system in this world now is about giving education to the children to grow up just for one purpose. Grow up, get a good degree, good education, get a good job, and enjoy life to the fullest. That is the education given to all of us. And then one more. Are you lamenting because you are now bereft of the Lord's presence? So this is the last thing he mentions. And as we can see from the answers that Dharani will give, this probably is one of the main reasons. So Dharani is now replying. He says, once you had all your 4 legs and you increased you increase the happiness of the world. Personality of Godhead, the reservoir of 4 transcendental qualities, and the abode of the goddess of fortune has now ended his pastimes on this earth. In his absence, the age of Kali has spread its influence everywhere. So these are the causes for her lamentation. I'm lamenting about myself, you, as well as about all the demigod stages, denizens of Pittaloka, devotees of the Lord, and all men obedient to the system of Varnashram. So she is the cow, the Mother Earth is lamenting because all the people who are following Varnashram will now, everything, the system is going to fall apart. Lamenting because being decorated with the impressions of the flag, thunderbolt, elephant driving the road, and lotus flower, which are the signs of the lotus feet of the Lord. But at the end, when sorry, she was not, because she was with that way. As the Lord was walking on her, this is how she was feeling. She was feeling all these impressions. But now at the end, when she felt so good with all that, the Lord has left. So the beauty and opulence of the world can be enhanced by the grace of the Lord and not by the man-made plan. When Lord Krishna was present on this earth, the impressions of the special signs of his lotus feet were stamped on the dust, and as a result of this specific grace, the whole earth was made as perfect as possible. This is actually a purport, part of the purport that I put here. The purport is explaining how Lord Krishna, just by walking on this earth, he gave pleasure. And this also reminded me about one verse which I've recited many times, and this is one of my favorite verses from the Bhagavatam, talking about how the cowherd boys and cowherd girls, how the Brajavasis saw Krishna. And this 10:21:5 is a beautiful verse, which I will take the opportunity to recite again. Baraha Piram Natavara Vapu Karanayo Karnikaram Vibhratvasa Kanakakapisham Vaijayantim Shamalam Randran Veno Adarasudaya Purayana Gopa Vrinde Vrindaraniyam Swapadaramanam Avisha Gitakirti Pravisha Gitakirti. Barha Piram is how the Lord was. Dharani is speaking about the Lord as it was right now. But with the lotus flower, Barha Piram, lotus flower on his head. Natavara Vapuha, he had a body of like a topmost dancer, Natavara, topmost dancer. Karnayo Karnikaram, over his ear, he would have the Karnikar flower. Karnikar flower is like apparently it's explained as like a beautiful blue flower, which we can't see in this earth. It was available only in those days. Brihadvasa. So he's wearing clothes. What kind of clothes? What clothing is he wearing? Kanaka Kapisham. Kanaka Kapisham means shining like gold, yellow, goldish garments. Vaijayantim Jamalam. He's wearing the Vaijanti Mala. Vaijanti Mala means a garland made of 5 types of different forest flowers. Randran Veno. Randra means a hole, holes. Randran Veno, holes of his flute. Adara Sudaya. Adara means the lips, Sudaya means nectar. So the holes of the flute, Adara Sudaya Purayan. Purayan means being filled. The flute, holes of the flute are filled by the nectar emanating from the Lord's lips. Adara Sudaya Puranaya Gopa Grande Vrindaraniyam Swapadaramanam. So Vrindarana, as we were saying just now, is lotus feet marked with all those beautiful signs. So Vrindaraniyam, so the sand of Vrindavan, Swapadaramanam, so it's being enchanted by the footsteps of Lord Krishna. Prabhishat Gita Kirti, this is how the Gopas are glorifying the Supreme Lord. So we just continue with the, again, of what the lamentation of Dharani was. She says, I was greatly overburdened by the undue military phalanxes arranged by the 86 kings, and I was relieved by the grace of personality of Goddess. Similarly, you were also in a distressed condition, weakened in your standing strength, and thus he also incarnate by his internal energy in the family of the Yadus that will leave you. So when the Lord descended, he not only pleased the Yadu dynasty and his family members and all his devotees, but the animals was also so happy in his kingdom. This is what the point has been made here by Mother Earth. She continues, when he traversed my surface, I would be immersed in the lotus dust of his lotus feet, and thus would be sumptuously covered with grass, which appeared like hair standing on me out of pleasure. So the earth produced not just an abundant amount of grass the earth produced abundant amount of grass for the cows to feed, cows and animals, but also all the other fruits and grains and gems and everything was produced profusely because of being happy in the presence of Lord Krishna. While the earth, and so this is again Prabhupada, I think, saying, the October will be the last sentence in the verses. While the earth and the personality of religion were thus engaged in conversation, the saintly King Parikshit reached the shore of the river Saraswati. So now this is just saying that now Parikshit Maharaj reached Saraswati, and then there will be now continuation of the 17th chapter from now. Prabhupada in his purport of text 35 is saying something interesting. Excuse me, I lost. Sorry, my mouse is not working as it should. Anyway, so Prabhupada makes a nice point in the purport of 35. I'll just bring it up on my screen there. Anyway, I've lost the screen that I was looking at now. But any comments whilst I'm still searching for it? Anybody can just make a comment or something? Questions, whatever, corrections?
Hare Krishna, Mukunda, Hare Prabhu. Thank
Hare
you
Krishna,
very much
Prabhupada.
for giving us the summary of the whole chapter. It's very enlightening, and also we just can remember what's the whole setting of the chapter 16. So it's good to hear from you again, so that it reminds us the sequence of the whole chapter and help us to go forward what's happening next.
Yes,
And
I think
only thing I feel sad that while Parikshit was there, Kali Yuga just came, I know, but because that's why Pandava left, because they knew that Krishna left and it's not going to be very nice. But Parikshit was such a wonderful king. So for him to be, to have that punishment, it's very sad.
yes, but as we know, Palika Mataji, this is all, he could have, reacted, and he could have counter-cursed. We know all that, right? But he actually he decided this was the will of the Lord, and the whole thing was done so that we could get the Bhagavatam. So it was all the plan of the Lord. Yes.
He understood that it is Krishna's arrangement. It is Krishna's.
Again, there also is a lesson that whatever happens to us, we must understand that is the right thing for us. It is the right thing at the right time that's happening to us. We should never lament. Yes, sometimes the sad things don't go our way, but then we must quickly recover and know, okay, this is the Lord's plan, so let's just go with it. Then it makes easier for us to recover and move on with our life.
Yes, that's the best thing to do. Yeah, not to lament.
So I found the purport I was looking for. So that short purport on 35, talking about the relationship between Mother Earth and Krishna. It says that there were chances of separation between the Lord and his thousands of queens because of the Lord's being absent from home. So the queen sometimes would not see the Lord for many times if he's not home. But as far as his connection with the earth was concerned, the Lord would traverse the earth with his lotus feet. And therefore, there was no chance of separation. When the Lord left the surface of the earth to return to his spiritual abode, the earth's feeling of separation were therefore more acute. You can see the earth was forever in touch with the Lord. And that is so amazing, isn't it? Great. Any other comments, any thoughts? Anybody?
Hare Krishna, Mukunda, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Thank you for a wonderful summary class. Wonderful as always. A couple of things, just a small observation. Prabhu, the South Indian Brahmin was reading the Bhagavad Gita, not Bhagavatam.
Did I say Bhagavatam?
I think it's Bhagavatam by mistake. But,
By mistake.
Absolutely.
Of course, it was the Bhagavad Gita, yes. Otherwise, there won't be the picture of the chariot on the Bhagavatam.
Absolutely.
Yes.
The other thing, perhaps it would be worth you clarifying so that people don't get confused.
No, good.
In this age of Kali, it's taking the order of sannyasis forbidden, yet we, of course, still have sannyasis. So perhaps you should clarify as to what the overriding prohibition on that is.
Oh, of course, yes. So we said that yes, that taking sannyas is prohibited in the age of Kali, and people would ask, we do have sannyasis in ISKCON, we have so many sannyasis. So yeah, good. Thank you for reminding me. Actually, I meant to do that, but I forgot to raise that point at that time. Really appreciate Shailesh for your help here. So yeah, the thing is, yes, sannyas is like when people in the old days, sannyas would be that you would just retire to the forest and just meditate, and that would be your sannyas. So that kind of sannyas, or the sannyas of the kind where you just, okay, fine, you give up your responsibilities, just roam around and beg, and just eat and live on others' mercy. So those kind of that kind of sannyas is prohibited. The sannyas that is existing in ISKCON, for example, and not just ISKCON, maybe other samstas as well, where they have proper preaching sannyasis. So when you have sannyasis who are there to preach, who are actually doing nothing else but doing Krishna Katha, they're traveling the world just preaching. That kind of sannyas is allowed. Shailesh, Prabhu, you want to add anything to that?
No, Prabhu, that's perfectly explained. Thank you.
Thank you. So thank you for reminding me. Shailesh Prabhu is always there. I always rely on him to pick me up, and I make the. It's not that we, of course, I take it very nicely, because good to have somebody who's there to remind you when you are making mistakes.
But you don't make any mistakes whatsoever. It's a service token. It's very easy. You don't make any mistakes whatsoever. It's my foolishness for pointing things out.
No. I'm genuinely speaking, I really appreciate it, because sometimes I would have said that, and other people may leave confused because they didn't ask the question, right? But when things are sorted out, it's much better for the whole class. That's good. Thank you. Really appreciate that. Okay. Anybody else?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, please accept my humble obeisances. Thank you. Just a comment, Prabhuji, but correct me if I'm wrong. So just like, so we say in the age of Kali, so obviously it degenerates from Satya Yuga down to Kali Yuga, so things just get worse and worse. And people are more and more in the clutches of Maya. But just as, Maya Devi, we see Maya Devi in a negative form, but Maya Devi is also a very big devotee of the Lord and is just following the Lord's instruction. So in the similar way, is it also not the duty of Kali to act the way it is acting? And so although we are in Kali Yuga, which isn't the perfect Yuga, but it is also Kali's duty to do what it's doing. And, you know, by doing the worst, it's reminding the people of just leaving here and going back to Godhead more. So just a kind of, you know, reflection that, you know, it's very similar to what Maya Devi is doing. The age of Kali is doing the same.
Yes, Pachari Mataji, thank you so much for raising it. Actually, it's very, very good. This is Prabhupada speaks about the thankless task, doesn't he? About Maya Devi. So, and you're absolutely right. Kali, it is because you know what the Yuga systems and everything was set up initially, of course, by the Supreme Lord. So it is the time for Kali to come. So nobody could have stopped it. And Kali, as you mentioned, is doing its duty. Kali is meant to give trouble to the souls, so that the wise souls would learn the lesson and try and make the way out of here. So Kali is doing that service too. Yes, and it sounds negative, but there it's doing it's there. It's for that purpose. And you know, otherwise there would not be a Kali Yuga, and everything would be stuck in a limbo. So Kali needs to carry on doing his duty and take this Kali Yuga to its end of miseries. And then, of course, the Lord will incarnate again, and then whole cycle will start. So you're quite right. Yes, thank you for raising that. And Kali, as we also know, that if we do open ourselves, or open our hearts to spirituality, then we also realize that actually, although Kali may be the most degraded age, it is also the easiest time to make progress. You know, it is said, the Kriteya Dhayato Vishnu. That means in the age of Satyuga, the way to qualify ourselves to go back to the spiritual world was to do tapa, long tapa. Kriteya Dhayato Vishnu. On Vishnu, we hear in these stories, somebody was doing tapa for 60,000 years and stuff like this. And Tretayam Yazato Makhe, which means in the age of Treta Yuga, the process was doing sacrifices, fire sacrifices, but also huge fire sacrifices, not like the ones we do today. So that was a process, very, very difficult process. You know how for fire sacrifice, for performing sacrifices, they would have to wait till they have an immense amount of wealth to buy all the ghee and samagri they need. So that we can't do now. Then in Dwapar came Dwapare Paricharyayam. So the deity worship started in Dwapar. This still continues today, of course. But in Dwapar, the deity worship was very opulent, extremely opulent. And also the people in Dwapar Yuga were 100 times more powerful than us. So they had the kind of focus to do the deity worship properly. But in the age of Kali, because the Lord realized that we can't do any of those things anymore, we don't have the lifespan or the attention span or the purity to do anything. So he says, Kalav Tat Hari Kirtana. In the age of Kali, just chanting the name of the Lord will take us back. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. If we can do pure chanting, that's enough for us to go back. So age of Kali is actually a boon that way. It is said, in fact, the verse previous to that one, it's actually say that Kalau Kale dosh nide rajan asti hi ko mahan guna kirtana deva Krishnasya Krishnasya. You read the last line? Kirtana deva Krishnasya Kirtana deva Krishnasya. Anyway, the meaning of that is that although this age of Kali is full of faults, it's an ocean of faults.
Prabhu, Mukta Sangha
Mukta Sangha Param Vraja. Thank you so much, Keshavani Mataji. Mukta Sangha Param. So although this age of Kali is an ocean of faults, there's one great quality in this age. What is that quality? Simply by chanting the name of the Lord, we can get out of this cycle of birth and death and reach the highest destination. So yes, as bad as Kali is, for people who are awake to spirituality, it is a boon. So devotees, it's 10 to 9. Thank you all.
Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mercy.
Absolutely, absolutely. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mercy. And we wouldn't have received that mercy if it wasn't for Srila Prabhupada.
Prabhupada, yes.
So we would all be in ignorance still. So thank you, Srila Prabhupada, for making to the West so that we all got this knowledge.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Let me see if there's any questions on the chat. No, yes. Oh no, there is a question. So in this age of Kali, 5 acts are forbidden. Offering of more sacrifice, yes. Half sacrifice, some sannyas, flesh and fathers. Yeah, exactly. And brother's wife, exactly. That's what it is. But I know this verse, but it's right now it's gone from my head. It's a beautiful verse about this Kali. Okay. So devotees, thank you so much. Vancha kalpatarubhesha kripasindudevacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you,
Hare
Prabhuji,
Krishna.
for
Hare
very nice
Krishna.
Thank you. Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Krishna.
Hare Krishna.